America, we got to get back to doing what's expected of us as free citizens in this democracy. That means being tolerant, being respectful, staying informed, and being engaged. I'm former Congressman Joe Walsh. Follow me here and join the millions of Americans who are renewing their social contract with each other. The social contract, it's on us.
Hey, hello, everybody. I am on the road this Thursday, as you can tell. I apologize at the outset for any quality issues. If I cut out every now and then, or if the picture doesn't look that great. I'm not driving this time. The lovely Helene, there she is driving this time. I'm on my way up to Pennsylvania. Going to meet with some Republicans in Pennsylvania, and try to help to encourage them to publicly come out and vote for Kamala Harris, to put the country first and vote for Kamala Harris. I'll be doing this throughout the next 62 days. I've been doing it for the past couple of weeks. 3 stories today on the road. And thank you, as always, for tuning in this morning to the Social Contract with Joe Walsh. 3 stories in no particular order this morning. Liz Cheney last night came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. She was at Duke University. Thank you, Liz Cheney. That was my first reaction. Thank you. Welcome to the club. All of us Republicans, former Republicans, who've taken that step, that difficult step, I would say that courageous step, to say, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, but right now, this year, I'm an American, and because of that, that guy Donald Trump is eminently unfit to be president. He should never, ever, ever be in a position of power again. So because I feel that way, as a Republican, as a conservative, I'm going to support the Democratic nominee. I'm going to support her. I'm going to support Kamala Harris. It's a big deal, gang, that Liz Cheney came out. Liz Cheney is a big deal. Liz Cheney is a tried and true conservative. She is a big, big name. So for her to take this step can really make a difference. And again, I applaud her and I thank her. And I expect we'll see Liz Cheney out there campaigning for Kamala Harris. It'll make a difference. Look, Kamala Harris, and by the way, this, wherever you are politically listening to me, from the right or the left, I'll just tell you all this morning, as I'm on my way, I'm actually in Pennsylvania right now. This race is neck and neck right now. This race is a toss-up. If the election were held tomorrow, I believe Donald Trump wins a squeaker electorally. Kamala Harris has to put together the same coalition that Joe Biden had to put together, from hardcore, leftists and progressives, to Democrats, to center-left people, to independents, to Republicans, to never Trumpers, to conservatives. Liz Cheney has to thread that, Kamala Harris has to thread that needle again and put enough people in that broad spectrum of Republicans and conservatives over to leftists, and keep enough of us in there. So every time a Republican or a conservative comes out publicly and says, I'm with Kamala Harris, it'll make a difference. Liz Cheney will make a difference. It's why it's so disappointing that Nikki Haley and Chris Christie and Mike Pence can't take that step can't make that step. I get it. Look, I'm going into Pennsylvania this morning. Today, I'm going to meet local Republicans on the ground in Pennsylvania. I'll acknowledge to you. It took courage for me 4 years ago, 3 years ago, to publicly come out and support Joe Biden. And then to do the same thing this year for Joe Biden, because I know as a Republican and a conservative, once I did that, once I took that step, I understood that I was, in essence, ending my career as a Republican. I'll never be able to run for office as a Republican again. Liz Cheney's now doing the same thing. But these local Republicans on the ground that I'm going to meet in Pennsylvania today, I believe they're exhibiting even more courage locally on the ground, in their neighborhood, in their communities, part of their local Republican organizations, to stand up locally in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and to say, I am a Republican, but I'm putting my country first, and I'm going to stand with Liz. I'm going to stand and vote for Kamala Harris. That takes immense courage as a local Republican. And I'm sure I'll hear from Republicans today, just like I heard from Republicans in New Hampshire last week who told me, Joe, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris, but I can't say that publicly. That's fine. You'll get a hug from me. You'll get a high five from me, because that takes courage. So thank you, Liz Cheney, for coming out last night, and welcome to the trail. And I thank you for doing what I know you'll do, which is get out there and campaign for Kamala Harris. Story number 2. A 64-page Justice Department indictment came down yesterday, everybody, charging 2 employees of Russian state media with funneling money into MAGA right-wing media voices to sow disinformation, to sow unrest, and to help get Donald Trump elected. Not a surprising indictment, a big indictment. Russian state media using MAGA right-wing media voices to push a Russian agenda, to sow chaos and unrest and division in America, to fuck with our elections, and to help get Trump elected. That's what the Justice Department indictment said, without getting into the specifics, the who are these right-wing media voices, Joe. Read the indictment. We can get into that later. We'll see how this all plays out. The headline, though, the takeaway is this for me. Why did Russia think it would be so easy to use MAGA media voices? People like Benny Johnson and Dave Rubin and Tim Pool. Why did they think, why did Russia think these right-wing MAGA voices would be such easy marks to spread the disinformation, to spread the chaos, to push a Russian agenda? A lot of these MAGA right-wing voices are the MAGA right-wing voices that we've heard over the course of the last year or two that have said Ukraine sucks, Ukraine's bad, Russia's good, Putin's good. Russia state media felt like these MAGA voices, these right-wing voices, would be such easy marks because they're so gullible, because they're so dishonest, because they're such grifters. And it's interesting when you push at the indictment lays out exactly the shit and the crap that Russian state media wanted these American MAGA voices to push out, scaring American voters, that there's crime on every street in America, that every major city in America is burning to the ground, that Israel is bad, that AIPAC is bad, that the left in America is trying to destroy America. All the shit and all the stuff you hear on Fox News. In fact, they did an amazing juxtaposition. All the disinformation in this indictment that Russian state media was paying to have these MAGA voices put out there. To you, by the way, Trump supporters, to you, by the way, MAGA voters, you ought to be pissed off. Russian state media spent $10 million and more to put a bunch of shit in front of you, to use the people you listen to, your right-wing media MAGA voices. Russia was giving them money to feed you a bunch of lies. My MAGA friends, that's what's in this indictment. And I know you can roll your eyes and you can say what Trump would say, what Tucker Carlson would say. Our Justice Department is bad. Russia's good. Putin's good. It's our Justice Department that's bad. Makes me so sad, because that's the shit that Trump has been pushing. You can't trust our election results. Oh, and you can't trust our Justice Department. They're the bad guys. Russia's the good guy. Putin's the good guy. Donald Trump stood in front of the world 6 years ago and said, I believe Putin. I don't believe my own people. I don't believe our Justice Department. I don't believe our intelligence officials. Donald Trump on a world stage in Helsinki, embraced Putin and gave our people the middle finger. And that's pretty much what he's been doing for 8 years. And his media cheerleaders, Tucker Carlson, and people identified in this indictment have been doing the same. And the information, again, that's in this indictment, the disinformation that they've been putting out lines up perfectly with everything you all have heard on Fox News for the past couple of years. Almost side by side, the same scare tactics, the same lies about life on the street in America, about crime, about racial unrest, about the deep state. It all lines up perfectly. The shit you hear every day on Fox News is the shit that Russian state media has wanted you to hear. We'll see where this indictment goes. The Benny Johnsons and the Tim Pools and the Dave Rubins and the rest of them, did they know they were pushing Russian shit, or were they just stupid idiots? Were they puppets being used? I don't know. We don't know. We'll find out. What we do know is this: millions of dollars have been spent to push Russian state media bullshit to right-wing Americans. Right-wing media outlets have been used to spread this disinformation, to fuck with our elections, to help Trump, to sow division and chaos. And Russian state media rightly identified so many MAGA voices on the right as easy marks, really easy marks to spread this shit. I think about you, MAGA voter. This should all be a wake-up call to you, MAGA voter. Once again, this is just further evidence that every day in this Trump era, you're being lied to. You've been lied to. You've been lied to by Trump every day. You've been lied to by Tucker Carlson every day. You've been lied to by Jesse Waters every day. You've been lied to by Russian state media through a bunch of MAGA voices every single day. You, my MAGA brother and sister, you have to decide if you'll stop tuning in to the lies. Story number 3. Yesterday, a 14-year-old, let me get that higher up, a 14-year-old with a gun went into a school in Georgia, a high school in Georgia, and shot and killed 2 students and 2 teachers and injured 8 to 9 others. A 14-year-old with a gun. What do we know? What should we know? Couple things. We don't know yet how the 14-year-old got the gun. We know that the 14-year-old's dad had guns in the house for hunting. It's been said, he's said. There will be an investigation. How did a 14-year-old get his hands on an AR-15? We know that this 14-year-old last year, as a 13-year-old, made repeated threats a year ago, a 13-year-old, to commit a school shooting. He was investigated. Authorities investigated him, interviewed him a year ago, interviewed his father a year ago. No arrests were made, but authorities knew that he was a threat. That was a year ago when he was 13. Interviewed him and interviewed his father. A year later, that 13-year-old becomes a 14-year-old, grabs, it looks like, sounds like, one of his father's guns and takes it into school. How did he get it into the school? We'll get the answers. We'll get the facts. I think this. I'm a big gun guy. I'm a big gun rights guy. I'm a big Second Amendment guy. A 14-year-old shouldn't have a gun. A 14-year-old with a gun, right there, everybody, is against the law. Against the laws on the books. All of my good brothers and sisters calling for more gun laws understand that our gun laws were broken just on the face of this. A 14-year-old with a gun, any gun, is against the law. There's a law against that. That law was broken. You want another law? So think about that. Think about that. The father had guns at home. I'm going to assume the father purchased those guns legally. Who's responsible? What's responsible? I would think even all of my fellow gun rights folks listening to me right now, my fellow Second Amendment advocates listening to me right now, would agree with me that a 14-year-old shouldn't have a gun. Something went wrong. I want to be careful not to blame the gun. I want to be careful not to scream, oh, it's all about access to guns and we need more gun laws when we don't know the facts. We all agree, all of us across the spectrum, from hardcore gun rights folks like me to hardcore gun safety folks like my good friend Fred Gutenberg, who I will be with next week in Washington, D.C., at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg Center for Public Policy. Fred Gutenberg is a solid gun safety guy. Fred Gutenberg, I guarantee you right now, is saying we got to ban the AR-15. We need more gun control laws. We need laws that mandate that those guns are locked up and secure in homes. Fred and I will disagree on this stuff, but we're going to sit down next week and we'll have a respectful conversation. The point now is until we know the facts, none of us want a 14-year-old to have a gun in his hands. And none of us want shootings at schools, shootings anywhere. We start there until we know the facts. Clearly, there are problems here. When a 14-year-old takes a gun into a school to kill people, we can talk about, okay, is there something more we can do about guns? And as a gun rights person, I'm willing to engage in that conversation. But a 14-year-old walking into a school to hurt and kill people, there are issues as well that go beyond guns. What's been happening in that 14-year-old's home? Has that 14-year-old been getting help? Why didn't the authorities do anything a year ago? Were there other incidents within the past year? Just the point being, there are other issues besides strictly the focus on the gun. That's all. The social contract is about having these conversations respectfully, listening to each other. Not this happens again, another horrific school shooting, and right away we go to our separate sides, and right away one side says, damn it, it's the guns, ban the AR-15, get rid of guns, it's all about easy access to guns. And the other side right away says, don't even talk about the gun, don't even talk about an AR-15, don't even look there. It's everything else but the gun. A healthy, responsible society will say, let's look at everything. Let's listen to each other. What happened yesterday at that high school in Georgia is horrible. None of us want it to happen. But let's wait until we know more before we say, this has got to happen. I'll close with this. I was on a BBC program yesterday talking about this Georgia school shooting. And I said, look, I'm a huge gun rights guy. I will defend the Second Amendment until I die. I will defend our Second Amendment as religiously as I'll defend our First Amendment. And I don't think, but I said, this is a uniquely American problem. Fact. I'll acknowledge that as a gun rights guy. No other country in the world has these shootings like we do, these mass shootings. Why? We have a hell of a lot of guns in this country. Why? We have a gun culture in this country. There's a lot of good in the gun culture, but there's also a lot of bad in the gun culture. There's a lot of pride in people like me who use guns to defend ourselves and hunt. But there's a lot of, people in our gun culture who boast about guns and who brag about using guns. So our gun culture is also an issue. And we do a shitty job in this country. I'll acknowledge this. We do a shitty job of making sure that people who shouldn't have guns don't get them. That's, I think, the area where the two sides can find common ground, where me, gun rights guy, can sit down with you, gun safety guy, and we can figure out how we can do better, trying to do better, keeping guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. But this is a uniquely American problem. But I said on BBC yesterday, we're not getting rid of our Second Amendment. Not going to happen. And it shouldn't happen. We're not getting rid of our guns. We're not banning guns. We're not banning the AR-15. We shouldn't ban the AR-15. All I'm telling you, folks, is that ain't happening. You may believe we have too many guns in this country. Respectfully, we're not going to go into people's homes and get rid of guns and take guns back. That's not going to happen. We're always going to have more guns than the rest of the world. We're always going to have a gun culture. We're always going to have a Second Amendment. We need to focus on what we can do. There are other things, mental health, everything else. But when it comes to guns, what can we do? How can we do a better job of trying to keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them? Let's wait for the facts as best as we can. And let's have civil, respectful conversations, and let's both sides listen to each other. And let's think about and pray for all those victims. Yeah, by the way, everybody, there's nothing wrong with thinking about and praying as well for the victims down in Georgia yesterday. Thank you for listening. Apologize again that this is on my phone. Have a great day. I'm in Pennsylvania trying to rally Republicans to Kamala Harris. I'll be here all day. God bless. Be brave. Follow me on every platform. Thanks, Keith.
Remember to listen, share, and follow The Social Contract with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been The Social Contract with Joe Walsh.